of creating compelling content. So I'm going to ask again, Simon, is Simon in the room? Simon in the room? No? Not yet. Okay, he's still coming. Alrighty, so, did I save us time? Wow, look at that. Well done to me, I saved us time. So, before we move on to the next session. So, while we wait, do we have 2 minutes? 2 minutes. Do we have 2 minutes? Okay, while we're waiting for the next panel and for them to start, may I maybe just get from you, audience members, one brave person who's going to tell me, what did you learn yesterday and what did you apply? Did we learn and apply? Anyone, what did you learn yesterday that you didn't know, and how maybe has it changed, what you're going to do and how you create content in your filmmaking process? How is it helping you? All these questions that were asked this morning by Udo Tandlovu, are we, actually applying and answering these questions? Any brave person? Yes, kind sir. Do you want to stand up? Sure. Oh, I didn't give you time to ask questions. I apologize. Okay, we will not do that again. We will give the audience a chance to ask questions. My apologies, because they were on a time limit and Urajesh also had to go, and we started a little bit late, so my apologies for not giving you a chance to ask questions. But we will do better. We will do better. Alrighty. Anyone with anything that they want to share, that they learned yesterday, or anything that is our next panel ready? Okay, there we go. Okay, so you guys are still shy, and so I'm going to hand over to Simon Manda, and they are going to explore the creative journeys and challenges of filmmakers with disabilities in the modern artistic landscape. And as you can see behind me, the team is setting up for them. So handing over to Simon, and you will introduce your panelists, and over to you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Simon Manda. I'm the editor of this newspaper, the co-founder of DAWN, the Disabled Audio-Visual Workers Network. I'm in the space of disability inclusion to highlight awareness and positivity in the space. For my panel today to discuss inclusion issues in the film and TV industry, I'll start with a filmmaker well-known from Kwanongoma, KZN. She's the festival director of Power 24 International Film Festival, the first ever festival with deliberate bias to include movies that are often overseen, including disability inclusion. She made a film, Zipped, based on the living experience of a family member that went on to win in the States a very, very big award at the Africa USA International Film Award. She's grown the Power 24 International Film Festival from 177 submissions in 50 countries to 65 countries with over 250 movies. And it's going strong, where sign language interpretation, where audio description, and full wheelchair access is deliberate in the procurement and into the planning of the event. Dr. Samke Kumalo. My second panelist is from Shaka Ilembe, Ugoloza. How was that performance, guys? Wow. You know Kelvin is an actor from Shaka Ilembe, but he's true. Where he met his name was in theatre. He was one of the standard bank young artists for theatre in 2025. A very, very important award that's given to about, I think, 8-9 disciplines annually. 9 out of the whole population of the country. So in theatre, 2025 was Calvin. This clip is for you. I'm still going on, sorry. Kelvin also won the Soft Outstanding Person with a Disability 2022 and Naledi Award, which is given to the highest theatre award. The Spirit of Courage at the Lesedi in 29. He lectures at the University of Pretoria for the past 5 years, and previously at TUT, it's one University of Technology, and he is a publisher, co-author. He's written a number of presentations, and he curates international grade A theatre productions, amongst other things. The third plenary member is a performer from Chatsworth. He's a member of South African Guild of Actors. He's an IT graduate, international model, fashion designer, presenter, and song performer in sign language. He auditioned at the International Arts Talent Showcase in Gauteng, came top 20 out of 600 people, and the only disabled performer to qualify in acting and modeling, and went on to the International Modeling and Talent Convention in New York. They made a movie that won a prize last year at the Cannes Awards. He's a top sign campaign ambassador, speak publicly on working in the deaf space in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, Adil Ramnath. I'm missing a panel member. She's here, I think. Can somebody phone Sharon and find out where Shakila is? She's somewhere outside. Shakila Maharaj. I'll read her profile when she comes in. Sorry for the wait, ladies and gentlemen. Last but not least, a Durban social entrepreneur, Shakila lost her sight in her early 20s. And built a company because of things that she challenged in her space. She's been 40 years in the sector and a decade in the audio description, where she pioneered the training and bringing of audio description in movies to South Africa. She's a Master's of Art. She has a Master's of Art in Organizational Psychology from Columbia University. She founded Audio Described in 2010 and Shazasin in 2020, which is a continental first. They have a groundbreaking app. It's called Describe Ad. You all know Shazam, right? Describe Ad will listen to a movie and give you the audio description in the language of your choice, Shakira? In the language of your choice, describe it, or is still in English only?
English is
So, let me repeat, I don't think you heard that, right? You know Shazam, but Describe It would listen to a movie and bring out the script in 4 different languages that can be included in the movie. But I know what you're thinking. How does this work? After an introduction, we're going to play a short reel that showcases what audio description is. I know you know subtitles and closed captioning. But if we talk about audio description, is how people that are blind can witness a live event or watch a movie. I use watch. How blind people watch a movie, they use audio description. We'll explain that in detail. Some people are still trying to get around that. She has sat on the KZN Tourism Authority and the Sharks Board, won a number of awards in the Simon Sabela Mapono Awards, won the Best Producer Award in Disability category for Access at the Power 24 International Film Festival. In 2024, the Describe Ad app became the top Disability Innovation Award, winning with Technology Innovation Africa. And she held the first ever audio description summit in Durban last year, which was attended virtually by all continents. Ladies and gentlemen, Shakila Maharaj, and in this play, the real anyone of them.
In slow motion, the Naidus all turn their heads to the Kandasamis. Alvis steps out first with a focused frown, blazer over his shoulder. Jennifer demurely follows with a clutch purse and the exact same blue sari as Shanti. Shanti's mouth falls open and her forehead creases. Jennifer walks with a confident, oblivious smile. Jodie behind her in a pink and blue sari. Shanti blinks in shock. Prashant spots Jodie and grins. Jodie flicks her long sleek hair, revealing her face with wide eyes, pronounced cheekbones, and defined jaw. Petite Aya with grey hair steps out in a yellow sari. She coolly puts on shades with dark blue lenses. She looks to the side, arms up as if posing for paparazzi. The Kandasami's BMW backs out of their modern chrome gate.
The lady said it was a designer sari. She said it was a designer sari. Now that one is very it's very my sari.
The women glare at each other.
She can pull it off.
Jennifer stares at Shanti with contempt. Prashant and Jodie share a knowing smile. Aya beside Jodie in her shades. Both cars set off.
Uma mkhize usegqoke iswimming cap uphethe nebhondi naye eduze kwakho ukhumalo ushaya izandla ujamba ababuke emoyizini agijime ngaphambili umama izinyawo zakhe zize zingene emanzini nangiyake ephangela amanzi umamkhize egcweza ilanga abanele idishi ligcwele abantu abadlala ibhola enhlabathini emanzini phakathi umamkhize ulele ngesise ebhondini lakhe ugwedla ngey'ngalo kunabanye abandozayo kulolu lwandle olubanzi nali nenkakasi ledlule umamkhize usehlezi ngezinto ebhondini lakhe amanzi ngathi ayabekezela eduze kwakhe kukhona igagasi elimhlanganisa abhukude ngebhodi umama bese asukuma ngezinyawo antuweze umama igagasi likhiqiza amagwebe emva kwakhe ubhalansile ebhodini njengoba ehamba nalo igagasi ugqoke neswimsuit ende emnyama sekuvele nalaba abanye nabo ntweza bekhula ngalo igagasi.
Archived footage above Johannesburg city centre. Reenactment. Joyce Sigagane and other black women walk on a city street. Ahead, a fresh crowd, smoke billows. The women duck hands to their ears.
I saw it, just happened as I was coming out of the office.
This is the African nation of Congress. This is the African nation of Congress. This is the voice of freedom. Africa, Africa, my way.
Joyce and others pick up the leaflets. Explosions go off in other cities. The smoky air filled with leaflets. People running. Colonel McPherson gazing down from his office window with a stern look.
So in its basic format, audio description is describing what you can't hear between script and music. We audio describe. I've had the pleasure of interacting with each and every plenary member here through our journey as Disability Newspaper and other platforms. To kickstart, Sir Calvin, you turned Goloza down for 3 years because you felt or feared that it would stereotype disability. Walk us through that decision and what should an emerging actor learn from all that?
Good day, everyone. Thank you very much for the Durban Film Office for organizing this event and this important conversation, especially around our sector. So yes, it's true, I did turn down the role of Goloza for 3 years. And for so many reasons. Firstly, representation is a big, important part of myself. How beyond even disability, even blackness itself, it's a big, important part. So one of the reasons that I was turning it down is because of, firstly, as a continent, we have a violent history around people living with disabilities. That's a fact. And looking into what exists in how stories of people living with disabilities are written are mostly stereotypical and quite problematic. And I was interested in something that transcends beyond the stereotypes. So I remember reading the first script that I was given, and I was very clear to the producers that, look, I love the script, but at the same time, we have to be realistic that this is prehistoric Africa. And this is not Game of Thrones. If we gonna, I understand the creative license that they wanted to take, but at the same time, it was important not to now have this character now having these supernatural powers that are already associated with people living with disabilities. So many killings happen in Africa based on those stereotypes and myths. And for me, it was important to really transcend that conversation and also not take it for granted because of an opportunity was offered to me. And yeah, and just not be responsible enough.
Thank you so much. Sorry, there's an oversight on my part. I apologize for that. For Shakila's sake, when you're starting on a panel, Shakila knows Samke, but she doesn't know Kelvin and Adil. So what I'm gonna do, starting with Samke, she will describe what she's wearing today. But because they know each other, she's not gonna describe the holistically everything. But Adil will do that, describe. I don't think they've met before. Shakila is Adil met Shakila. I know Shakila doesn't remember.
Yes, once. We met once. Yes.
You met once, yeah. You're sitting next to Shakila, you're sitting next to Adil, so. But for the sake of today, you describe yourself to Shakila. And Kelvin, on your next question, please do that as well. So, over to you, Samke. Zip was made largely on your back, a lived experience of a family member who is epilepsy, by the way, and the founder of the Power 24 International Film Festival. Samke, you directed, you wrote, you produced, and you put the music intentionally so. For filmmakers without funding, how did you go on this journey and teach yourself to go each step of the way, knowing that you were telling an important story of inclusion?
Thank you so much, Simon, and good morning, everyone. I would like to reintroduce myself. I am Dr. Samyele Kumale. I am sitting here and very privileged, a middle-sized lady who's well endowed, wearing gold shoes with some sparkling things on the front. I have a navy, which is a kind of a darker type of a color dress with also some sparkling things towards the end. I also have a coat almost matching with a bit of gold in it. So I am looking like a very big, nice princess with beautiful hair, with huge volume and a good makeup. And right here we have Adil next to us, who is well dressed as a fashion designer with beautiful pants, stylish and red, with beautiful shoes which are brown and leather, and a very nice top which is also matching my color, which is darker, with a beautiful handkerchief on the side, with a beautiful haircut, very modern, with a wave of a curl. And next to me, also I have my colleague, Calvin, very nice today with his beautiful jeans, also looking like navy color, beautiful sneakers with a bit of green, light green, a bit of orange, stylish sneakers with a top which is brown and color almost of the color of a body, with a beautiful texture of a velvet, so it's nice to touch. He's looking very good with his glasses today, and with you know you're looking very nice, Shakila. I won't explain, but she's beautiful. For those who are here who might need this, Shakila is on also beautiful jeans color of a jean usually is bluish and has a nice pink, light pink polo neck with a nice, beautiful grayish and brown raised with lines which are black top and beautiful earrings with beautiful glasses and a beautiful hairstyle which is short with a nice lipstick which is red. And I am here to affirm a need for a transformation in the industry, for inclusivity in the TV and film industry. And as a self-taught filmmaker, I am living as a parent or as a sister or as a caretaker of a person with disabilities. And my sister is here. You can give her a standing ovation because she had to attend and see what is happening, who's also a co-founder of the Power to If you just stand up and sit down. And you can stand up. When we lost our parents during COVID, both of them the following years, we saw a need to tell our story because I became a caretaker and also like a parent. And I realized there was a huge need to tell a story of the pain that people with disabilities have to go through to be able to attain things which are supposed to be offered right. A simple story that pushed me was my sister has epilepsy. She lives with epilepsy as a disability. She struggles when she is under a lot of pressure, including at school when she has to go through exams. And every year she had to go through her exams, she would not finish them because she would have seizures and an episode. So when you have an episode, it will take you almost 3-4 days to up to a week to recover because of the damage that comes after the episode. And with her school, where she was attending her matric, they never understood her condition. So she would go to school, write the exam, in the middle of an exam, she would collapse and have the episode. So it means the rest of the other classes she would, or exams she would not complete and they would fail her. She had to do matric 10 times, that's 10 years. And that was her resilience, and every year she had to keep doing it. And for me, that was a story of hope, a story of resilience, and a story that maybe we needed to share with the world. And along that, when we were verifying, we found out that along those 10 years, she had passed somewhere. Her marks could make up that she passes, but because they were just so used that she's not going to make it, she kept on trying and trying. The long and short of story is that she endured that pain and a lot happened, but at the end, and the story was prophetic. Because when we wrote the story, we ended it with her getting an internship to America. script and directing, I said to her, I am supposed to get a good actress for this, but you are alive. You are not dead. Why must I tell your story without you? Let's go to the field. So she acted her own part. When we say nothing about us without us, this is what I meant. She acted, it was so easy to direct her because she was natural on it. So everything was kind of authentic. So she told her story. Mind you, I had no formal education. It was self-taught. I was following things. I would attend master classes. I would attend online classes about directing and production. I would attend festivals. I don't know how many festivals I attended. Professionally, I'm a gender specialist. That is my specialty in my education. But I had loved to tell stories. So we did the film, we finished, learned editing, everything. It was not 100%. We submitted to a couple of festivals. We got selected. Our film was selected in over 26 countries and won in over 16 countries. And one of the highlights was winning in LA in the Academy Awards, where we didn't even have funding to go there. So we kept our faith. And the long and short of story, she eventually made it to America for the first time. And we went to collect our award with her. The same that we predicted on the film, that she would go to America. So it was a very interesting thing. Now, I want to say, when we went there, we realized something very extraordinary. We attended awards, but we realized that the awards were just a ceremony with glitz and glamour. But we realized we could take it back home and plow back. And that is how Power 24 was born. We said in the year 2024, we broke through the ceiling. We want to come back and give 24 awards to deserving categories that every year we will remember a black girl from a rural community made it where no one said they would. So this is how Power 24 was born. And Power 24 is a tool, is a festival, and an advocacy project. I'm about to. Okay. Thank you. I apologize.
The reason why we tried to share the first part, your journey in the craft in brief, then we'll come to the barriers that we face in the industry for persons with disabilities. Then we'll go into accessibility with the current, so you get to that, and then representation. Then we wrap up with advice and action forward. Adil, you said your deafness sharpens how you read expression and body language. What can you do on the screen that a hearing aider might miss? And this has been part of your journey in the fashion world as well as in front of the camera.
Okay. Yes. As a young male, I like TV very much. There's an FTF, it's called David. socializing, being in the public. So that gave me so much confidence and aspiration to build my profile about myself. So when I go out, even though I know there are many speakers out there, I'm deaf, I'm impartial, they may overlook at me. I don't care. I'm free, I'm confident, I'm here. Doesn't matter if I'm deaf, it's fine. I can just do whatever I want. That's it.
Thank you. And Shakila, you went blind as an avid film lover and kept going to the cinema anyway. How did that personal frustration become a company?
Hi, can everyone hear me clearly? Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Simon. So, I went blind from an injury and eventually lost my sight completely in my early 20s. But it was a gradual loss, and I never stopped seeing. And that was the first thing I realized, that you don't just see through your eyes, you continue to see through your mind's eye, through your imagination. And I continued to do things that persons with sight would do. So I loved art, theatre, and the cinema. Of course, I was reliant then on persons to describe to me what I was looking at. And I just did that naturally. Everyone who knew me knew that they would describe to me when we would go somewhere. I would visualize whatever sound I heard, it would conjure up a picture. In fact, so much so that I would forget I was blind. And later on, much later, when I was now an older person working as an industrial psychologist, I came to discover the art form of audio description. I never knew it existed as an art form. I went to the USA to present at the ACB, the American Council for the Blind Convention. And there I learned of Dr. Joel Snyder, who is considered the father of audio description globally. And I trained under him, and that was in 2009. And I came back to South Africa then, and I started to drive audio description from then. And I tried to sensitize the industry. Audio description is best known within the film industry, but I went further and wanted to extend it into other visual forms like performing arts, illustrated books. Actually, whatever you see can be described. Culture, tourism, experiences. So for me, it's two things. It's helping to make people with sight understand that when you are blind, you don't stop seeing. And the focus shouldn't just be on our other senses. Yes, the other senses are very important, and it's always important to be able to read Braille and so forth. But only 5% of blind persons read Braille. And when you go blind, people tend to think that's the only other way in which you can access information. And when I discovered audio description, it opened up my world. And I felt then that this is something that blind persons back in Africa need to understand, that we can be an active part of the visual world, not just enjoy it and participate in it, but go further and contribute. And so moving into the space of film and making audio description and creating the app just became a natural part of that journey. So yeah, that's it.
You might see some of the crowd members, instead of clapping, they're waving their hands. Because for that are deaf, it's a visual language. So clapping is signifying Right. Yes, you can demonstrate for us. Yeah, you're raising for this. Thank you. We were trying to shape up the journeys of the panel members here through their lived experiences and how they walk their journey. Now we're going into the meat of the barriers that people suffer. What's just about in the mind, Shakira? What barriers in the industry have cost you most? Is it attitude? Is it the money? Or is it the infrastructure?
Well, attitude is the basis of it. So when you look at the film industry, they don't, largely they don't recognize the blind sector as a market, and consequently they don't see the business case for it, and they don't value us, and so they don't see the need to cater for us. And that was the first big barrier that I encountered. And it was having to create awareness, and that's ongoing. We're far from where we need to be. The Western world has moved further on, and certainly we can use that as hope that those trends will follow in Africa. So yes, the first barrier is definitely attitude. And because of attitude, you don't get funders that want to put their money behind audio description and make films more inclusive. And then the third is obviously then the lack of resources and skills. So I must say we've come a long way though in the last few years. When I started out, the word audio description wasn't even known. Commissions like NFVF and KZN Film Commission particularly has been an important player. From about 2020 onwards, they saw the value of it. They started investing in this art form. And consequently, through them, we've got over 60 films that have been funded by them that now have audio description made in KZN. So I think they really need to be acknowledged. And they've been championing audio description, and now they're moving into the space of captioning. So yes, there's major barriers, and those barriers still are there, but the awareness is growing, especially by people like yourself, Simon, that has been doing a lot in the film industry. We've bodies emerging. My very own company, Shazas and Accessible Media, every year we have at least 15 persons. Half of them are blind and deaf-blind. They are learning the skill of audio description. They're learning to do sound editing. You'd never imagine a person that's blind and deaf-blind doing sound editing. They are among the best in the industry. And with my team of persons who are blind and deaf, working alongside our sighted persons, we are turning out the audio description soundtracks for local films. So what I'm saying is, there is a lot of opportunity to create skills, new talent, provide jobs, if only the industry would wake up to it. And there's, gradual awareness arising. And what's really pushing that is more the regulatory frameworks. So you look at ICASA and so forth. But I think it starts with an attitude. And I'm glad that we're having sessions like this. So if we change attitude, the rest will follow. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Shakira. I think as the audience, there are some things that we miss. Did you hear when Shakira said, some of our editors are deaf-blind? Imagine a deaf-blind person. One who can see and one who can't hear. And we know that the craft is audio-visual. I want you to think about it for a second and remain like that, to pack it in the brain. I'm going to ask the same question to Dr. Samuel. The Power 24, building it, is it money? Is it attitude? Or is it finances? From your experience, because you're building something that's unique, that involves movies that are alienated. And today's focus specifically films with a disability theme.
Thank you, Simon. I think when it comes to films and creatives with disabilities, it is very, very hard in this country. Yes, it is attitudes. Yes, it is funding. But also there is something that is problematic when it comes to supporting programs of people with disabilities. I do not know why institutions all the time, when you present a program, they will then say it's too expensive to support the program because you need lots of money for assistive devices. You need to invest more because they come in twos with the person that is assisting them and all of that. It might sound like a fact, but the reality is, in every 6 households, there is someone with a disability. Somehow. It's a fact. That is a fact. It's been researched. Now, you can imagine that's a lot of people who need that assistance, who need to have an accessibility on TV, who actually, Simon, when I was communicating with one of the broadcasters, I'm not going to say which one, I said, who watches the TV the most? Who sits at home watching the TV? The biggest number of, or the center that watches the TV are the older persons, are the people with disabilities, are children, because most of the time they're at home and they watch TV. Now, why wouldn't you invest in them being able to access what you are trying to portray on TV? What the stories you are trying to take up? Why are you not focusing on those who watch it? Then people who only watch, they say women watch more, at least 30 minutes per day. They do spend time on TV. So the problem with it we have is mainly the attitude, yes, the funding, but we also need to have a change of mind on how we see things. Before you take my mic away, because I never stop, I want to say this. Last year, we had one of the winners, or the recipients, out of this story. The gentleman, Simon, was unfortunately born without legs, both legs and both hands. But he was making a living. How? He is, or not he was, he is, because he's living. He makes a living with drawing. He draws with his mouth, with one tooth. And one day the tooth fell, and the two doctors had to reconstruct a tooth for him to have something that will make him live. Now we sit here, we have everything, and we complain, and we see life is so tough and we have so many mental problems. Yet we have people who try by all means to make a living. And these stories never get to go out because they are not newsworthy. So the Power 24 is about that, and it should be funded for people to change the way they think and respect other human beings and see them as the people that they are, and as equals, and even better than them who have everything, maybe the way you say. So I am urging on this festival that please support programs, please support films, please support creatives with disabilities.
Thank you so much. On that note, I'm also going to I don't think the curators of the event are here. In the next session that you do, the plenary for disability inclusion, please allow 20 more minutes to the plenary, because I know it's allocated 1 hour for each plenary, but with accommodations, we have a deaf plenary member, we have a sign language interpreter, and between the interpretation, it takes a bit of time. Then other accommodations, some persons with disabilities speak slower to be understood in this deliberate name, so that they can carry on their message. So that hour is very limiting. So right now we're running out of time, and we're not even halfway, because we want to touch on the journeys, the barriers, and also trying to educate each other on the different journeys. With that said, I'll go to Calvin. In the casting auditions and on-set communication, and in between the imagination of the people that write this place, where do you think they're missing it? And what would you advise them?
The first thing I think, and I'm going to speak specifically as a performer, actor, is walking into auditions for roles that are not written for you. Literally. I don't think there's ever a time in this country a role was written for someone who looks like me. Even the conversation, in stories like Shaka, I had to actually also come in to not only have conversation, but also to be part of shaping that role and understand that how problematic it can be in the next 20 years or 30 years, and how certain things like me painted, not actually painted, but powdered white, is something that's easy that I would have said, no, I don't want. But because of, I understood the spiritual connotation and the time in 1700s, how that was relevant. But that's a different conversation around that. I think the biggest problem is, and especially as an actor, is walking into auditions and everyone still claps for you and say, wow, you're amazing. And you think that you might have that role. You're not going to have it because, firstly, that's not how it's written. Secondly, we have commissioning editors in channels and broadcastings who want to respond to a certain aesthetic that they think our audiences are actually looking for. Shaka Ilembe was just one role for me, but look what he did. Who has ever thought that a role is necessary, is needed? If one day I didn't do that theater show, I was on that stage, no one would have known. And that's a role that I made, and the same thing that you're seeing on Shaka, even the same guy who carries me, was something that actually was explored on stage in theater. And we adapted the whole narrative to fit that world. And one of the biggest problems in this country is not only knowing that, yes, you are amazing as an actor, but also asking yourself, are you ever gonna get a role? Are you gonna ever get a lead role, for instance, whether in a rom-com, who says that we can't do rom-coms? Why can't I be a gangster and be transporting drugs in these townships and stuff? So for me, I think attitude, again, it goes back to, it's a big thing, and we sit with this stereotypes and myths that we really perpetuate to not only general public, but also we are not nation building as we claim, and also contributing and allowing people living with disabilities not to be treated as these people who have to just receive SASA grants. They can contribute to the economy of this country. And for me, it's very important, and I make myself as an example, as someone who constantly is in a working space in university setups as a lecturer, which I'm just imagining if people living with disabilities were given an opportunity to actually have access, how much growth, where would we be economically?
I'm going to pose this to Shakila. I think I'll do first, then Shakila. It's almost the same question. Adele? Yes, Adele. Yeah. Okay. No, okay, it's fine. Shakila. Adele. The question is about accessibility on set. Beyond booking an interpreter, when do you say that, okay, is it okay? Beyond booking an interpreter, when do you say that a production or a set has access right? What does right access mean for you beyond an interpreter?
Production can improve accessibility by providing sign language interpreters, captions, accessible venues, and clear communications. It should be a thing because they should be also involved disabled professionals from planning stage to production, and creates opportunities that recognize diverse skills, including voiceovers and performing talent. So there are many barriers that still exist, but we should be the key in opening doors that help us in the deaf communicators. So productions can improve accessibilities. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Adam. Shakila, I'm gonna, there's a young filmmaker here who says, yes, I've had the call. So any production that I do is gonna start with audio description included. The minimum viable option, because we always cite, and the funding agents, they don't have budgets to include for audio description. What's the minimum viable accessibility option to include?
Sorry. Minimum accessible. I think I'll move away from the word of minimum to effective. Because the thing is, you want a person with Did it go off? No. You'd want a person with a visual disability, blind, like anyone else, to walk away having experienced the film equally well, to have understood the plot from beginning to end, to have followed the action, and to take away the messages like everyone else. And to do that, then audio description must be done properly. If not, you're creating a half-baked solution. And sighted audiences don't want that. Why would you then want a blind audience to have something at a minimum level? So, right now, the standards for audio description vary across the world. Even though there are global standards, the implementation of those standards vary. Here in South Africa myself, I'm setting standards and contributing to the global standard setting bodies. So the way it currently works is that you are given, audio description is seen as a post-production process. So the filmmaker makes the film, it's all complete, and you now give it to the audio description company, and they look at the film. The starting point is looking at the film, identifying all the slots that have visuals between the dialogue. And then within that time code, it might be 3 seconds, 5 seconds, you have to write a description that conveys a visual understanding of what's happening. And it's tough, and that's why it's an art form, because you've got to understand language and be able to write succinctly and go beyond that and create a vivid imaginative experience. So the big challenge with audio description currently as it's written and produced is that it's a compromise. And so you can't always convey the story as well as we'd like to. So I believe we've got to go back to the video editor. I'm discovering that it is can you hear me? The video editor is the main person when it comes to building in the audio description time. So right now I'm working with a video editor on a production, and I'm realizing that the key areas that you want to include good description, you need to allow a few more seconds. Eventually, the duration of your film might only grow by a few minutes. You're still going to maintain the duration of your movie, but you want to allow sufficient time so that you can describe adequately where key things are happening in the film, so that we can walk away with an equal appreciation of the film. So all of this means you're creating new talent. You're training video editors in this process. You're training blind persons to work alongside video editors, to probe and guide them with putting in the time. You're looking at, in the film itself, I think telling our story as blind persons, how we experience life and what we go through, good, bad, and ugly. Those stories need to be told. So even sharing that content. So yeah, it's a lot. And it's a lot we can be offering and enriching the film industry with.
Thank you, Shakila. So you're basically saying accessibility is not a compromise. It has to be done right from the start.
Absolutely.
To wrap up, I'm going to need an answer from every one of you. Whilst they are answering, 3 questions from the floor that I want you to think about. For anyone here with a story that is a disability component or inclusion element in it, and you are worried that you might tell it wrong, then what would you ask the panel? So at the back of your mind, whilst we're doing this question, just your pick across board. If there is a commissioning editor here, or a funder, or an emerging filmmaker that's sitting here, who can wait to change? What can they do as an approach to their movie? And what's the one thing that you ask a commissioning editor to change? But sorry, it's the other way. Commissioning editor or funder who's sitting here right now, what's one thing that you ask them to change? And for the filmmaker that's sitting and can't wait for that change, what can they do immediately? I'll start with Shakila, you have the mic. Then we move to Adele and
I hope I understood the question.
So we start with the commissioning editor and the funder. What would you ask them to change as a mindset?
So I think they must immediately internalize the fact that every budget that's created should include a line item for audio description and captioning. That is a non-negotiable. That the audience out there is a diverse audience that accesses film in diverse ways. And if you truly want to cater for the market, you must understand that. So from the outset, build into your budget. So all the grant funders that give budgets must ensure that inclusion is built into it. And the commissioning person needs to put that down as a criterion, that if I'm commissioning you to create a film, or this is inclusion through audio description, through catering for neurodivergent audiences, for persons with deafness, all needs to be factored in, because it can be. That's the whole thing. It can be factored, and it can be catered for, and it can raise your film to the next level and make it a viable product for the international market.
Thank you, Shakila. Thank you so much. Adele?
What was the question again, please?
Okay.
Sorry.
To a commissioning editor or funder sitting in the audience, what's one thing you'd ask them to change?
Okay. So, for an aspiring person, I would say make accessibility a priority. It is important not to make it an afterthought. Listen to deaf and disabled professions, create inclusive opportunities, ensure that diversity is reflected both on screen and behind. So that's what I have for that.
Dr. Salman, for the Power 24 Festival, funders, what would you ask them to change as a mindset?
Okay, I'll start with the commissioners. I'll start with commissioners. It is a necessity, it is a need to include films that are done by the creatives who are living with disabilities. It is crucial that we invest in ensuring that when we fund, I'm not talking to the funders, when we fund, we make it a priority that there is a percentage of funding that goes towards people who are living with disabilities and also who are creatives and those who are telling their stories. And also prioritize that when you do any marketing for such programs or events or films, don't only do posters that are only visual, but also put some audio description on these posters so that people who are able to see can understand what we are trying to do. And that also needs some budget. So please transform the industry as much as you can, and also put it as part of performance for people who are leading in these institutions, that they have done this, and if they are not putting it as part of the performance, it will not transform from the side of broadcasters, commissioners, and even people who are doing funding for for institutions in government or private sector. It must be a necessity. It is already there. 2% is not enough. We're not even moving from the 2%. So we need to do better. And also, let's move towards the AI and include AI. It is helping us for people who are unable to see, who are unable to hear, that we use the AI to our benefit, but also ensure that when we are budgeting, have the people living with disabilities in mind.
Do you remember the question?
Yes, I think I do remember the question. For me, to the commissioning editors and the funders, I'm gonna answer the question very much in fragments, but also sparking a conversation with them. And it's gonna be so direct and not all over. For instance, where is the story of people living with disabilities during apartheid? We have never seen that movie. Where is the story of people living with disabilities existing in prehistoric Africa? Where is that movie? I think they are sitting in positions that are quite not only transformative, but also can shape homes. It starts there. The same movies that can be told about people living with disabilities are the same stories that can inspire and motivate institutions, especially academic institutions, to start opening up to inclusivity, especially drama schools. How many people who have trained as actors who are living with disabilities? The reason that you're not seeing much of people living with disabilities trained is because of already the institutions are not having models that actually embrace that. And I'll go back to myself. I remember I auditioned at the Tshwane University of Technology in 2012, and I was rejected to study drama. Then it happened that 6 or 7 people didn't teach early in the year. So they had to fill that gap. And I was called maybe 3-4 weeks into the course had already started. And I was called, I was asked, are you still available to study drama? The truth is, I was never going to study drama if those 6-7 people didn't pitch. I was never going to be having that cum laude as a degree if those 7 people didn't pitch. I wouldn't be a lecturer in drama department in one of the most universities that are historically having a whole racial controversy, which is the University of Pretoria. I wouldn't be sitting in such a powerful, impactful position. And it's small things like that opening up this conversation of visibility, where we can start having these conversations. And I think the commissioning editors and the funders have that power in this country. And I think we have clear white paper that speaks about mainstreaming disability within the arts and culture that maybe they need to familiarize themselves with. They need to understand that some of the greatest acts, like your Beritas, your Taniso Mazwais, and so on, some of their music writers are people who are blind. Your Yonela Mnana, someone that they don't know, but who's busy lecturing in the university teaching music. So familiarize yourselves with these impactful stories of people who are existing and who are already doing it. But because of we don't understand the Constitution itself, but what we need to be serving beyond just the aesthetics, I think, yeah, for me it's a question, but also it's a conversation that you need to have in those positions.
Good call. Somebody sitting here might be thinking, oh, there's a few blind people that go to the movies, there are fewer deaf people, why bother? The attitude we should have is that of universal access. Some of the technologies that you use now were meant for people with needs, but you use them every day. You want to hear an example? Initially, the map, Google Maps, when it gives you directions, walk 100 steps, it was for blind people, and 10 left, 10 right. Now you can't do without it, right? So universal access approach says, if I'm tired to watch a movie, I just want to lie on the bed and close my eyes. What do? I can put an audio describe the movie and watch it whilst I'm sleeping, right? Or in the dark, right? So universal access approach is something that you consider. Some of us here have learned second languages because of subtitle and closed caption. Let's think Vango, let's think generations. So you understand, this is how important it is. Before I get to the Q&A, sorry we are wrapping up, the time, like I said, very limited. I just want to say, we should note that the most inclusive film that will come next from this room won't be the one with the biggest access budget. But it will be one where somebody intentionally decides from page one that everybody gets to participate in it and gets to watch it. Everybody. Does it make sense? So, I'm turning on the Q&A. The panel is ready. That question I asked initially. Please be short with the question and we'll answer quickly. We only have 2 minutes. 2 minutes, 3 seconds. Anybody from the crowd? If you were to ask the panel here, you have a movie idea in your mind that has an inclusion component, and you're scared that you might get things are wrong, what would you want to ask? Or any general question? Yes, one. I see you. Is it Lisa? Thank you, Lisa.
I just want to say congratulations. This is an amazing panel, and we've gained so much insight. A lot of you are my heroes, and that's quite wonderful. We have a lot of representativity, and I also am on the panel itself. I think less representativity in the room. We need to change that, so we need a greater degree of persons with disability who pursue the arts, pursue filmmaking, and the more makers of film who have disability themselves, the greater representativity you're going to find, and diversity in storytelling. I want to say there are other disabilities that are also not represented. And of course, you couldn't represent everybody, but specifically persons with autism, autistic people, and the kind of accommodations and supports that they would need in the filmmaking process. And that's the question I would like to ask all of you, is what accommodations and supports would you specifically require on a film? Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. To kickstart off your question, with Dawn, I think you're following on the page. It's things we still need to communicate. As you know, the co-founder, Karen James, she has autism. And she is doing a PhD, and the thesis is representation of persons with autism in film and TV industry. Yeah, for starters. One of the things that we are now intentionally doing, we have a framework, we have an understanding with TFM, we have an understanding with Framework Africa. We are now talking to them about quiet rooms at their conferences. So we built a lounge with a quiet room. For neurodivergent people, persons, a quiet room is something that speaks to sensory overload. So if you're overloaded sensory-wise, you go to that particular space where there's less noise, where there's peace, where there's music, and you reset, almost like a reset process. So we are starting those conversations. It's a pity that we can't have a representation of everybody. But one of my experiences in the industry, a producer director, very well known, said, did you know that a lot of directors are on the spectrum? And the reason why they haven't lobbied for accommodation is because they hold the budget. So they just set themselves in and they're okay. But and the words was, can we now open it to everybody? Crew members, writers, anybody involved in the value chain, so that accommodations are made possible. So that's one of the conversations. Anybody who wants to answer to that? Okay, and then Shakira.
Okay, thank you for asking that question. Maybe specifically in our festival, we've created an inclusivity. We have a room, which is a quiet room even for the festival, in the festival, for people with autism. We have made a lot of accommodation for making even programs to be braille for those who are able to attend our festival. We have sign language interpreters. We have phones which are transcripted and scheduled at certain times. We cannot do all disabilities in our festival. However, what happens is that in a certain year, like last year, we navigate and have a shift of audience that attends based on selected films. Like last year, we had films for people who have impairment on hearing, and we had a huge contingent of them attending last year, and it winds up like the year before we had those with seeing impairment and a lot. So it winds up, but this year I can assure you, we also have some films which are selected for people who have autism, so we might see a lot of them attending this year. So we are urging that all festivals do that. They should invest in ensuring that the festivals have huge accessibility, and like we do, but we also want to say we lead on that because we want to ensure that everyone is included.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanke. Andrew?
I would just like to add on the point, the Power 24 summit last year, I started being the first representative for the deaf community in the industry of the deaf actors. I was there for this, responsible for the ECO-S, where many of the deaf community saw this as a big opportunities, not to waste, so they wanted to be part of the program. We had about 20 people there in the festival, so it was wonderful in the festival. So this is just to explain that deaf representatives are needed, and if we don't have them enough, now is the time to break that barrier and start being involved more. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. So I wanted to respond to Lisa. Lisa Aziz, as you know, is the chairperson of Autism South Africa and is doing incredible work in film because she's also an acclaimed filmmaker. I think from my perspective, working in the space of inclusion and accessibility to film, I really want to understand better how persons with autism relate to the world and understand how they consume and appreciate film and grasp it, so that by understanding that we can work with persons with autism, regardless of the spectrum they're on, in making film accessible. I think we must also be cautious not to start stereotyping what accessibility means to persons with autism. Just as it is with persons who are blind, we cannot stereotype the types of accessibility that we typically think is what's needed. I think the starting point is working closely, interacting closely with your target group, grasping how they experience the world, and working with them in creating your script, telling the story, and particularly what are the accessibility needs. Many years ago, I worked in the Philippines, and I was amazed to find at that stage that accessibility was all around persons with autism in the film world. I don't know what inspired that in the Philippines, and this was in the early 2000s and late 1990s, and I wondered why in that country there was such an advanced approach to autism. And that was when I also realized that the cinemas catered, and they catered very differently in terms of how they, addressed persons with autism coming to see a film. And now those techniques they used are now becoming more commonplace. So, but just to go back to my point, we've got to work with persons who are within a certain disability type, with that target group to understand, and so that we internalize the needs and be able to tell relevant stories, not our perspective on what we think is the story.
Thank you so much, everybody. I think the basic word is let's leave no one behind. On behalf of the panel and everybody else, let's keep inclusion on. Thank you.
Thank you.